Hello, everybody, and welcome to another short episode of Fearless Now. Joining me is my co-host, Mike Grushin, and we wanted to actually bring you a hot topic around credit. But before I get into that, I just wanted to give you guys a preview. Over the summer, we launched a beta pilot for Fearless, and we wanted to focus on all the stuff that kids are not learning in school. And part of that is an intro to financial literacy. And what Mike has put on screen is just really we're planting the seed with these kids around budgeting and banking and understanding how the system really works. And so that really led us to one of the topics that Mike wanted to do a deep dive today around how to build your credit. And it's never too early to build credit. And there are some ways that parents and kids can work together and start building credit very early. And so those are some of the things that we at Fearless like to touch upon because, like Mike and myself growing up, no one really taught us about the banking system. And I actually can't remember who taught me how to write a check or deposit at the bank. I mean, obviously, my parents much further down the line. But these are things that, it's really awkward and difficult to have conversations with your kids oftentimes about money. And being transparent about money, being transparent about credit, and actually teaching them in a really helpful way is important to us. And now Mike and I have kids, and these are things that are coming up in conversation, even as early as the age of 10. So, Mike, why don't you tell us about how to build credit?
And I just want to add a couple of items to. So we felt that it's very important to teach kids about financial literacy because my personal anecdote from my life is that I remember very clearly first semester in college many years ago, and there were multiple tables where they were offering T-shirts and water bottles for a credit card. And being an immigrant, being in the country just for 3 years, obviously no credit history. I should not have been given a credit card, but I got one, and 3-4 months later, I had $2,500 on it because I obviously did not understand the concept of APR. I did not. It was magic, right? You just take out a piece of plastic and then you pay for whatever you want to pay without really understanding what's going to be the impact. So that was a bit of a painful lesson, and we are looking to help our kids avoid those lessons. As I was doing research for today's episode, it seems that in 2009, it's now much harder for credit cards to do this on campuses. So like there was specifically somebody, smart, decided that that's not a good practice. So there are some laws now that make it much more difficult. So let me highlight a couple of things. So we will not cover in a lot of detail the importance why credit is important, having a good credit score. We will talk specifically about what is it that we as parents of teenagers can do to help them build their credit score and credit report in order to make it easier for them to get a car. So the very first visual that I'll show you is this. I'm going to go bigger screen, it's about the same. So this is an example from one of these new credit cards that are looking to help younger folks as well as people with bad credit to start building their credit. So here's an example of somebody with a credit score of 600. They get an interest rate of 11.33. And obviously in the beginning, I did not understand why is it that the person with lower credit score gets a higher percentage interest rate versus somebody with a good credit score. And over the years, it was explained to me, I learned that it's because it's a higher chance of person two with a better credit score to pay back the loan. That means that there's less risk. If there's more risk, the lenders are looking to make sure that they're charging higher percentage because they know that a higher number of people will not be paying back that loan. So that's how they're ensuring that they get their money back.
Or defaulting.
And the difference is pretty. Sorry, Deepak, go ahead.
Or defaulting.
Thank you. Good word, defaulting. So the difference is pretty big, right? So this is a pretty relevant example, right? So when our kids go to college or whatever they do at 18, they'll need a car, right? Probably we're going to be looking at somewhere at this price point, right? So this is like the difference of $6,000 over the course of 6 years that the person with the worst credit score, right? And obviously, especially with the younger generation, when they are making less money, that's a pretty significant amount of that we would like for them to save. So we'll share all of these links. I'll just go them by one. So if you're not familiar with some of the things, and I was not until we did this research, because we now have a 14-year-old. This 14-year-old hangs out with his friends in the mall, and he wants to buy ice cream, right? So we should give him our personal credit card, which is not a great idea. So we started looking into what is it that we can do to both empower him to learn about finances and credit card and APRs, at the same time figure out how we can use that learning experience and also to benefit his credit score. So this article is one of the better ones that we've seen. So what is it that you should be doing? You should educate your child on how credit cards work. There's a ton of materials, like we will provide some. It's also a good idea for them to have a savings and a checking account, so that they will make payments from their own account, and then you can show them how adult life happens, right? You get money going to your checking account, you make certain expenses, there's certain money that's saved, then what do you do with that money? So in Fearless, we're already starting to teach, and the financial course will educate what is it that you as a teenager, as a parent of a teenager, can do with a couple $100. There are now a lot of options that did not exist when we were younger. Make sure your child is ready. Teach them how credit cards work. And then there are a couple of options that you can look into. So there's a concept of secured credit cards. So you essentially deposit X number of dollars. So minimum is usually 200. And then it's secured by the money that you put in. So that's one of the options that you can go with. Or you can do a joint credit card, or you can add your child as an authorized user. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about the authorized user is that different credit cards report that activity differently. So American Express does not report any activity on an authorized user under 18. Making a couple of calls and doing some searches, Chase, Citibank, and Capital One, they will report on all of the activity under 18 as well. And the idea is that will build the credit for that teenager. So this is not.
I think just even in the world of finance and how fast sort of fintechs are moving in the space, and the audience is getting younger and younger, and part of that is you're seeing all of these rise in YouTube and TikTok influencers that happen to be younger and younger, and they're starting to earn income from being here. And so I think a lot of the financial services companies are saying, wait a minute, there's a lot more young people that are earning money. And so when you think about credit, traditionally you think about 18 and over, but I think the trend is going younger and younger, because they have to understand, how can we capture that information, even though these kids are not 18, they will have spending power, or by the time they're 18, they have more spending power than traditionally there was when kids were entering college. So, it's a really interesting dynamic that the fintechs and financial services companies are grappling with. And I think now that they're being more data driven, speaking from my day job, that data is helping them immensely figure out, how are we going to help these kids even younger?
Absolutely. And whatever financial advice we provide, we're not financial professionals, so you definitely should talk to your accountant. But I will mention that if there is a specific reason, just a viable reason for you to employ your child in your business, like to help with social media management, for example, right? Because they're going to be much better at it than us, or some type of like any activity within your business. I believe the amount is either $12,000 to $15,000 a year that you can pay your child, and that your child is not going to pay taxes on it. So you obviously should be checking with your accountant on what are the rules and what are the activities. But one of the things that Serge, my 14-year-old, he's making a few dollars by creating videos for Fearless. So I'm also taking this opportunity to teach him what does it mean to work and get paid, and then he's going to teach them that when he wants to buy something, he can start thinking about like how many hours of work is that, right? So, and then there's also tax advantages because like if you just give them allowance and you have them do something in your business and you don't really go through the proper accounting principles and tracking, then you're essentially paying the same money but post-tax before instead of pre-tax.
There's a lot of different advantages. Even, Mike and I are learning all of these things now. And I think the other part of it is, at Fearless, again, the focus on all the stuff that we didn't learn in school, we are bringing in the experts to help us around being more tax efficient or understanding the tax code. And a lot of our teenagers actually this summer said, I want to know how to do taxes. Like, I want to know because I'm earning. I want to understand how that's going to be for me. And then the other ones were asking about how am I going to invest, because they're starting to understand that, savings accounts are not yielding anything. Is my money working for me? I mean, to have that thought at the age of 13 or 14 is amazing. And Mike, just, continuing to improve every day. Mike, tell us about what you did over the weekend.
So I'm continuing to do this. So just turned out to be right now is lunchtime. So one of my favorite presenters and authors, Keith Cunningham. Almost every sentence that comes out is like can be put on a bumper sticker or a quote. So I'm participating in the 4-day MBA. So, both Deepal and I have had successful businesses. This is helping me understand the accounting and the financial aspects in a much more detail, right? So we always had an accountant, we always had a bookkeeper, we always had, like one of my partners was in charge of this, like he was overseeing this. So we definitely had knowledge inside. My focus was technology and operations, and now I'm learning about balance sheets and assets and liabilities, which is, I'll be honest, not the most exciting thing, but I know it makes me a more well-rounded professional, right? The full stack executive, if you may. So the experts and the professionals are going to come from our pretty vast network. We'll see. Maybe Keith Cunningham will be interested in educating the teenagers. So there's a pretty NerdWallet is a well-known resource for anything personal finance, credit cards. So there's a very good article, took me a bit to find it, that talks about how credit cards and which of them report information on authorized users. So for example, American Express, and I verified this, like I called both American Express and Chase, because that's the ones that I use. And they're saying that they do not report an activity for anybody under 18, and then Chase does. Which is interesting because this article, which is on the chase.com, contradicts both the NerdWallet article as well as what the representative told me. So I just added both of my older kids as authorized users who should have credit cards in a couple of days. So my plan, and I'll come back to the resources, my plan is to transfer a couple of monthly subscriptions, Netflix, Hulu, whatever you guys are paying for, maybe credit card, maybe a wireless bill, maybe utility bill, right? It doesn't really matter.
Their Roblox account, the Roblox bucks that you guys are spending money on, that.
Very good point, right? And then the other advice, and this comes actually from the 4-day MBA. So Keith is teaching business owners. He says, eliminate all of the automatic payments for the next 90 days. And he says, once you start writing checks for every invoice, you are guaranteed to find 5 to 10% efficiencies because it's such a top of mind, right? So credit cards make it super simple to do paperless. I still find it value to get every month to get a statement and go through it visually, right? Because this is yet another one of those emails you have a digital statement. In reality, I rarely look at it. I don't have that practice yet, but on a physical one, yes, it arrives. I scan through it. I see 3 to 4 charges of whatever I signed up for, monthly subscription that I need to go cancel. in a digital form is not going to be all that visible. But going with your kids through every line item, okay, here's what was charged on a credit card. Here's the payment that you need to make from your bank account, having that on the calendar every month. Mm-hmm. That all starts to build the responsible financial habits that took me years to develop.
Yeah.
So let me share a couple of other interesting resources here. So Experian has an article. This is not this product called Boost. This is not for kids, so you cannot sign up for it under 18. But it's interesting that somehow they tie in. I didn't sign up yet, but they tie in payments to all of these providers, and it automatically boosts your score.
And there's a lot of different hacks that you can do if you make double payments on your credit card. So if you make a payment halfway through your statement cycle and then 3 days before your statement cycle, that can also boost your credit score, because the way that the reporting works, depending on how high your balance is and how much it is lowered by the time that reporting comes around, it then begins to boost. So there's a lot of different little, I'm going to say, finance hacks that you can do, but just something to keep in mind where, double payments may be something that can boost your score quickly.
They're good points. So I'll also touch on some of the stuff that I do personally just to monitor my stuff. There are a couple of teenager kid based credit cards and debit cards. So Greenlight is one of them. There's also Go Henry.
Mm-hmm.
So Go Henry is an interesting story, crowdfunded. And the idea here is that it's a combination of education as well as the credit card. The reason why I did not choose this, because I didn't see any information on credit building. Right. So while I obviously want to teach our kids about this, to me, the other important part of it is to build credit. Okay, so we spoke about credit card requirements, right? So this is from Experian. So there's also it's supporting material, supporting information that Chase, there's no minimum age requirements. So that seems to be consistent. And then the one website that I've been using over the years is
the big one.
Credit Karma.
Mm-hmm.
So Credit Karma is free. Obviously, they collect your data and then they upsell you on credit cards and loans and everything else. But it's an easy way to keep track of all your scores, and it does not go against your. It does not reduce your score because it's soft check, I think it's called. The other thing I'll mention, many years ago, somebody stole my identity, and I had the hardest time getting that record removed.
Yeah.
I ended up paying some professional company, and this is me, college educated. I was already working. I was not able to do it myself. And after that, I have a lock turned on for myself, for my family, for kids. So anytime that we apply for something, there's an extra set of steps that we have to go through in order to say, yes, it's us. So highly recommend that in today's world of security breaches and hacks.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, we wanted to just, give you a little bit of a preview on the things that we think about and how we are organizing Fearless. But Fearless is not only just to help kids in terms of these leadership and life skills that we're helping to develop, but we're also planning to have a parent resource or a parent playbook. So these are conversations that you can have very transparently and productively with your kids as you are going through these steps with them, right? They are entering into adulting, and it's awkward and it's challenging and it's fun and there's a little bit of independence. And then there are things that, you are going to have really difficult or amazing conversations. And we want to be there to help you as a resource and think about the playbook that you should have. And you start thinking about, should I have an authorized user on my credit card so my kid can start getting used to those things. So at Fearless, we're here for not only the kids and the teens that are going through our program, but the parents as well. And having these meaningful conversations is just part of our program. So we hope that you enjoyed our little credit journey. We will be double clicking on these topics in our Fearless content. But it was just a nice preview for us to, spend with you on share with you over the weekend.
Thank you, Deepali. Thank you, everyone who's watching. Have a fearless day.
Bye, everybody.